Peace, y'all. I am ICC, and I am back with another oddly familiar episode. Welcome to episode 3. In this video, I will be taking a look at some of the recommendations from the user comments. There are some excellent finds by the viewers, so I decided to highlight some of them. If you commented, then you may just find it on here. Buckle up, and let's get going. In our first and second slot, we have a double whammy. And the funny part is, this one already had 2 songs that sounded familiar. In episode 1, Elecman made an appearance because his theme matched a song by Journey and one by REM.
I know you say.
Well, that exact same theme song is back. Thanks to Mr. Wright, I searched for the 2 songs he commented about. I did a little comparing. There isn't much to compare. That's Elecman for the 3rd time in this series. And it's the WWF Strike Force theme. The funny part about this one, when I found the song, I scrolled down to the comments to read someone say, this WWF song sounds a lot like Elecman. And that had a response saying Elecman sounded a lot like Journey. So now, after all of that, a new comment appears, and Sergio Jr. says that Elecman song sounds very similar to a song by Cheap Trick named Way of the World. I could hear how one would find them similar, but now I just wonder how many more songs will sound like Elecman. In slot number 3, we have one that was brought to my attention recently. I haven't played many King of Fighter games, but lucky for me, this viewer Clario left a comment. And by the way, I apologize if I pronounce anyone's name wrong. But in this certain comment, he mentions King of Fighters 94 and the Brazilian stage. Now he compared this to a song released in 1990 by the band Faith No More, and the song is titled, Surprise, You Are Dead. Well, after listening to the Faith No More song, I couldn't disagree. It sounds familiar to me too. So next time you hear Faith No More, you may just think of King of Fighters 94. Next up, number 4, we have a comment from a viewer who, while watching a previous episode, noticed a song that was playing sounded familiar to one he has heard before. Mighty Bomb Jack, Arcade Stage number 2. After I heard this, I knew exactly what Mr. Ring was talking about. The melody sounds the same, and while it may not be on purpose, it's a little bit difficult to defend. Another one that sounds like the Beatles' Lady Madonna.
Lady Madonna, children at your feet. Wonder how you managed to make ends meet.
In that previous episode, I played a Dr. Mario theme, and that one also sounds familiar, but I have to give some credit to Mr. Ring. This one sounds even more like Mighty Bomb Jack. And now the halfway point, number 5. The viewer mentioned a great game made by Capcom, and this is not the first time Capcom has been featured on this list. But here is the Punisher's First Boss theme. I didn't exactly hear it at first, but once I flipped over and heard the songs play back to back, it sunk in and I heard the similarities. And it's just like the viewer said. That techno song named Pump Up the Jam. Not my favorite flavor of song, but I hear this a lot at sporting events, and now every time I hear it, I know exactly what I'll be thinking about. The Punisher. In at number 6, Waffles Memes brings one up that I never paid attention to before, but it's from a great game, Earthbound, and the song is called New Age Retro Hippie. Again, I didn't hear this one at first, but after listening again, it may now be my favorite on the list, because how often do you get to talk about the legend Chuck Berry? Well, here he is, Johnny B. Good. It sounds close enough to include it, and plus, it's Earthbound and Chuck Berry, so why not include it? That's one of the greatest combinations ever conceived. I guess you guys aren't ready for that yet, but your kids are gonna love it. Lucky number 7. A comment by Albert. He mentions the game Street Fighter Third Strike. On the Yoon and Yang stage, Crowded Street. While I am familiar with Street Fighter, I am not familiar with the music on Third Strike in this stage. So I searched the song and here's what I heard. Now you might have been able to pick up what it sounds like. When I first heard it, I couldn't help but chuckle, because it's not exact, but that's not the point. The point is just for fun, and that is James Bond 007. The 007 theme has to be one of the most popular theme songs of all time. I would put it against anything. But it's really no surprise to hear so many songs sound like the one and only James Bond, even if it is Capcom appearing in the series for like the 5th time. Nearing the end of the list, number 8. This viewer was the first to comment this particular song, so that's the viewer that's gonna get the credit. If you watch the channel, you know one of my favorite mascots is Sonic the Hedgehog. Well, here is the ending to part 3 on the Sega Genesis. And while this was no accident, the Sega song was actually produced by Michael Jackson, so it's no coincidence that it sounds like MJ's song, Stranger in Moscow. The King of Pop produced a few songs on the Sonic soundtrack, but he was uncredited. He didn't really need the credits, and anyways, long story short, he liked the melody so much that he used it on one of his actual songs. Our number 9 spot, actually submitted by an Uncanny X-Clan member, Kratos. Kratos decided to tell me this after he watched the first episode, so I stored it away. It's from the game Chess Master on the NES. A pretty smooth song, it's relaxed and actually kind of fits the game that it's in. But it's undeniable that it sounds like the Dave Brubeck Quartet, Take 5. Like I always say, I try to give the benefit of the doubt to the producers of whatever song came second, but in this case here, I feel pretty safe saying the song was stolen. Last but not least, the final spot on our list, number 10. This viewer is just some guy on the internet, mentioned Guilty Gear XX, Anji Mito theme named Fuga. While I am familiar with the Guilty Gear series, I don't know the song, so once again I pulled it up and it went a little something like this. Now that may not sound familiar to everyone, but to anyone that has heard the song named Livewire by Motley Crue, that is, I dare say, uncanny. While I have never heard either of the songs, once you play them, it's oddly familiar. That's now the second time Motley Crue has appeared in the series, so they must be a good band to imitate for video games. And that is Oddly Familiar Episode 3. One thing I want to add, which nobody realizes yet, the idea behind this series is to cover anything that is gaming and familiar. So in the next episode, it may just be familiar characters, or it could be another about game songs. Let me know in the comments which you would prefer, or if you have any other ideas. But anyways, I'm ICC. Thanks for watching, y'all. Peace.
Thank you.